Flat track riding is not a training method for individuals who ride motocross, but rather it is a beneficial training for those who ride on asphalt surfaces. Hi, it's me, Andrzej, and this is Flat Track. Listen, here's the deal. That man standing over there, unassuming face, a friendly guy. He used to be in Spain many years ago, and he brought flat track back from there. Flat track has always been around because, let's be honest, flat track is the oldest motorcycle sport in the world. In the beginning, people used to ride motorcycles in circles on wooden tracks, speeding up bicycles. That's how they started racing. Later, they wanted to race everywhere, but there was no asphalt, so they raced in circles on gravel, on beaches. Then they started building tracks, which led to the creation of flat track TT. And after almost, or even more than 120 years, here we are, the Motor Arena in Torun. The path to flat track in Poland has been quite long. How many years ago were you in Spain?
5.
Let's say. So, and since then, Łukasz kept saying you have to do flat track. You have to do flat track. You have to do flat track.
And you still didn't want to?
And I still didn't want to. I didn't want to because riding a motorcycle in circles without brakes is a stupid idea. A pretty bold one.
But you have a rear brake.
I have a rear brake, but let's be honest, the rear brake practically doesn't work. The rear brake is used to initiate, but when I tried flat track, it turned out there's hardly anything better you can do on a motorcycle.
I completely agree. I also fell in love with flat track, and I really regret that there aren't more opportunities for it. Once Andrzej didn't invite me, so I didn't go.
I also didn't invite you once.
You also didn't invite me once. I've already missed 2 training sessions, and since we meet on average once every 6 months, that's quite a long break.
Exactly, but after all, here we are at the stadium. This is actually my first time ever riding a motorcycle in a stadium, and I like it. Right now, I truly feel like my entire life is finally coming together beautifully. We are here today thanks to the truly supportive company Nice, who observed the flat track situation and thoughtfully said, hey there, listen closely, we will certainly help you commence your training sessions at various stadiums. Perhaps I am speaking a little too grandly for the moment, considering this is indeed our very first training session. And we will have to wait and see if we are ultimately accepted into the program. At first it was hard for me to ride because it was so grippy, it felt like asphalt, but later it got better, you know? Yeah?
But the conditions were quite changeable, which was hard for me to get used to because the more we rode, the more the surface changed. Sometimes it was grippier, sometimes it was more slippery, which of course was a great experience and a huge learning opportunity, right? But that changing grip was quite something. You really had to adapt quickly. But that's always the case after all, Łukasz.
That's exactly what flat track is about. The conditions can change even during a single race, especially when you have 12 riders. Or in American series, sometimes even more, up to 26 riders at the start. The surface changes, the racing line almost changes within a single race, and you constantly have to search for grip. Exactly. All right? Because otherwise we'll just keep talking and talking. But the point of this video is for you to get to know flat track and to start doing it yourselves, because we're aiming to make these training sessions regular. So let's start from the beginning. Here you can see a cross-section of the motorcycles we had today. There is one type of motorcycle missing that is most available in Supermoto with wet tires.
Exactly.
Look.
This is the simplest version. We have a lot of Supermoto riders You don't need to modify the motorcycle, except, as you said, changing the tires to rain tires and just slightly adjusting the suspension settings. You don't need to modify the suspension, just tweak the settings a bit for flat track. And of course, remove the front brake.
Exactly, the front brake is removed so that you don't use it by accident, because
For safety reasons, right? It might seem otherwise.
that's right.
That's why it was eliminated.
Because if you brake with the front, it immediately wipes everything out, and that's it. So the basic setup is a motocross bike with 17-inch wheels, really, because I used to ride supermoto with motocross suspension, and that would work too. That's more than enough for a beginner, after all. The next step is the CRF 250, in our case from 2009. The motorcycle itself costs a few thousand zlotys. The wheels weren't exactly cheap because they were new. They cost around 1,000 euros.
I think this is where the saying comes in, where there's a will, there's a way. So it's not like, okay, these bikes are all nice and so on, especially Lukas's and Andrzej's, which are really well taken care of. But honestly, to get started, I rode like that myself for a long time. You don't need a big investment, and if someone trains and so on, there's 2 or 3 motorcycles, then for sure one of them is perfectly suitable for this.
Exactly. Now, when it comes to the suspension later on, so Łukasz, how was it with you? By the way, it's written in the article, and all the details are in the article on Świat Motocykli. If you search for flat track, there's a big article that Łukasz and I wrote together, and pay attention to that CRFE. Here, they've simply installed the suspension from a Yamaha R6 with adapters, and at the back, they've put on a longer swing armor, very simple component, and immediately the whole motorcycle sits low to the ground. Or you can just buy a ready-made pit bike. Well, for several thousand zlotys, you have a pit bike that's made for flat track. And today, Daniel, who will be joining us here in a moment, we'll ask him about it. He was racing with us today in those races. You can see that if someone knows what they're doing and opens the throttle, that pit bike was competitive with a bigger motorcycle. With a 190cc engine and small wheels, it was a shock that this pit bike was weaving in and out among us, right?
Yes, that's true. Especially since this track is big and fast, because we're at the Moto Arena in Torun. And I think that if the track was smaller and especially more twisty, the pit bike could actually have an advantage in the corners over us on these big motorcycles, right? Because a big motorcycle is heavier, it always requires more strength and times I think also more skill and experience. Yes. And with a pit bike, you could accelerate quickly, and I think the acceleration was actually better because before you even get going on a big motorcycle, someone on a small pit bike will already have overtaken you, right?
Well, the riding technique in general, let's be honest, this sport seems simple because here we're just riding in circles, at least for now, since later there will be TT or turns, but for now, theoretically, it's simple. Yet at the same time, it's the most difficult because here you have to be the king of precision. You make a mistake and you lose lap time. And maybe this is a good moment since earlier Łukasz was explaining to the guys how to ride. But we didn't mention the most important thing there. You start in second gear, and if you start, you shift up to third, and then you basically don't touch the gearbox anymore. That's exactly what we did. We started in second gear, then shifted to third, and stayed in third the whole time. So now listen to how Łukasz explained it to those who tried to listen and some even understood.
Generally speaking, your driving technique depends on the shape of the track. That's just to, complicate things right from the start. You ride motocross, right? Well, the significant difference from traditional motocross is that you absolutely must enter the turn without any braking whatsoever. So you genuinely need to maintain as much speed as humanly possible.
Yes.
And you brake by sliding, meaning you go in as fast as possible, usually as close to the barrier as you can. You start leaning it in. And here, when there's a lot of grip, you actually start leaning while still on full throttle. And at the right moment somewhere, I don't know, you'll feel when it starts to slide. You close the throttle and control the slide with the rear brake in the initial phase, especially here because this is a very big curve. Later, to get through the stern, you can position the motorcycle by adding throttle. You need to blip the throttle, and that will help the bike set up for the exit. Or you can steer with the front handlebars, meaning turn them towards the inside. That way the bike will also stand up and position itself. The front and rear are sliding the whole time here. It should be here. The technique is a bit different than on a smaller track, where on a smaller track you would make a very quick entry, throw the bike hard, and you would actually slow it down and use the rear slide and the front to brake it so that the bike stands up and then make the fastest possible exit. Here, because the curve is so big, you do that initial phase to slow it down a bit, and then you have to set it up a little and already find the line for the exit. Get it on steady throttle, exit, and of course get out as quickly as possible. As for what I noticed with Maciek, which surprises me because speedway riders always ride with their elbows out wide.
Motocross.
I mean motocross riders, sorry. Although maybe Maciek still rides old school a bit differently. Entry, it's the entry into the corner. You have your elbows very wide and you kind of make a gate, so to speak. So you throw it in such a way basically to put weight on the front. You make this kind of gate. When the front always starts to slip away from you, you push, press with your chest, and here with your thigh. You turn it with your hips like this. In reality, you just have to try, and then you can correct your mistakes.
Don't look at the barrier.
Don't look at the barrier, that's...
I have the same thing, that the barriers at the entry get really close to me, you know?
Where your eyes go, your body follows.
And honestly, I try to ride on the big one, but...
and the point is to look for grip. It's not about making the coolest slides, but about having as much grip as possible and as much speed as possible. So that's actually logical.
The front brake was...
What?
Well, at least the front brake worked. Because this bike doesn't brake at all with the rear, right?
With the front, you brake by putting the front into a slide. Well, that's exactly what Maciek does. Maciek, for example, sits more or less in the middle of the bike all the time, but when entering and initiating a slide, you have to unload the rear and load the front so that the front doesn't slip out on you. So on long tracks, you can often notice, for example, that they really lean into the bike like that. And here it's all about that half lean, because with that half lean, your braking is just like how the front brake works. You close it like this, and it just goes that way. Not only does it brake, but the rear also starts to set up for the exit. So
The front goes into a slide, then I bring it back with the throttle.
yes, here you try to use the throttle, set up the motorcycle for the exit, as it's a long curve. You'll be adding throttle and see how it turns.
Here it's so grippy that in reality the motorcycle, the front won't just slide out on you right away, you know. You really have to lean it over hard, and only when the tire reaches its limit you will start to feel how the grip works.
Oh, okay. So probably slim chances that I'll manage to do it today.
Now you'll manage.
If you go out on a slippery surface, you'll get it right away.
As for the leg,
On the big one it works, on the small one it's tough.
you can basically ride as if you had the skate, you could ride sideways. But with a regular boot, you can ride the same way, just like in motocross. And just keep it here by the front part.
Hey, alright, let's ride a bit. Maybe we'll come up with something.
Yeah.
Today was already fun, but you know, it seems like it's dangerous. Well, every motorcycle sport is dangerous, but the way we were riding today, there were even moments when there was some contact. Well, I didn't feel it. I mean, let's be honest, the adrenaline is pumping, but each of us fell today. I think it's also great training for any sport, and everyone can find their place here. Yeah, exactly. And it's not without reason that Marc Marquez and basically everyone in MotoGP do this. I don't know how many WSBK riders don't train on flat track. Flat track isn't the training for people who ride motocross, it's a training for people who ride on asphalt. That's actually kind of paradoxical. We've already tried flat track before. We know what it's all about, and we know just how much we want to ride flat track every chance we get. For me, it's like this forbidden discovery of something new. Like I said today, it's the first time I've landed on my back since 2007. And since 2007, I just feel like a total rookie. And I'm okay with that, except that my butt hurts a bit, and so does my pride. But let's hear some opinions. Let's start with the youngest, the one who's been stirring things up here a bit. Daniel.
Hey, hey.
Prince of the little bikes. All right, you're a typical asphalt guy. You started out on pit bikes. You competed in the Supersport 300 World Championship. Now you're moving up to the 600. And today you were riding a little pit bike with us. I've come across these pit bikes before with us during training, and those pit bikes do their own thing, and we do ours. And today it turned out that the pit bike was right there with us. What did you feel on that little bike among the big ones?
Yeah, basically we're at the Moto Arena. It's a big stadium, but on the pit bike I wasn't far behind the bigger machines, the CRFs and Husqvarna. So for me it was a great training session, honestly.
What do you love about flat track?
What do I love about flat track? Well, basically you can have fun with sliding, really feel it, and learn how to save yourself when the front or the rear starts to slip away. And for sure it really comes in handy later when riding on asphalt.
That's exactly how it is for me too. I was always afraid of sliding on tires, on slicks. For me, my whole life it was like, when I'm riding a motorcycle in a corner, it should grip, not slide. It was only when I started riding flat track that I realized, okay, you can slide and not fall over.
Exactly, exactly. I think it's very well. There are a lot of useful elements you can practice here. Especially now, for example, when I'm switching to a 600, those slides start happening when entering corners. And here, just like on the flat track, you can really practice that very well.
All right, at the end you switched for a moment to the 250. Was it a huge difference? Or do you think a pit bike is enough for training?
No. Definitely, it wasn't a huge difference. Like I said, we're a really big venue because we're at the Moto Arena in Torun. And these turns are very long, but it was great for training, and I also chased after the guys a bit. And just like Emil said, I think that on a smaller track, the pit bike would actually have a slight advantage.
Okay, thanks a lot. Now we take the oldest one. We took the youngest. We take the oldest. Matt, yes, go away. Distance, you know, I like you very much, but from a distance.
All right.
That's why we live in different cities. Maciej Dunek, how many times Polish motocross champion?
9. I didn't make it to the 10th because of an injury.
Like Rossi?
Rossi also had 9.
Yes.
That's possible. So we're about the same age, probably like Rossi.
42 years old?
Exactly.
Oh wow, the Polish Valentino Rossi of Polish motocross. Maciek is here for a reason, because Maciek has a place to do flat track. That's why we wanted him to catch the flat track bug. At first, so what do you think?
Well, it's definitely not a bad discipline, although I'd prefer flat track TT.
So with turns,
Yeah, with left and right turns. Of course, you'd need to have time and ride a lot, and then something would come out of it.
is there any connection between flat track and motocross, or is it something completely different?
No, there definitely is a connection. The bikes are the same, or at least similar. For sure, as motocross riders, we have a lot of experience on motorcycles. We've spent many hours riding, and I think we should just drive around a bit and see what it's all about. It was even visible that the more laps Karol did, the faster he went, even though he had a 250cc motorcycle.
I see. Will you be persuaded to do flat track one more time or 10 more times?
I'll definitely be persuaded.
You little bastard.
What's up?
You were quite the equipment. Karol Kruzinski, not afraid of flat track.
No, I even liked it very much.
Cool, right?
Cool, you can just fly a little bit sideways.
This isn't your very first time flat tracking, I guess, considering your experience and skill.
No, actually, I'll tell you that I once won a flat track competition, and it was right here where we are now.
Exactly, because that was a flash. It was still too early. In Poland, too few people even got it, and it couldn't be carried on. Maybe the right people just didn't notice it. And now I hope they've noticed that there was a flat track competition here and you won it. What kind of motorcycle was it? What did it have? What kind of wheels did it have? What did it look like?
Back then it was all a really quick thing because I saw on Facebook that there was a flat track competition at Motoren, and I noticed it in the evening, the day before the event. So I went to my dad's workshop and said, okay, let's go to the flat track. So I reached out to my friend Igor Kopesz-Sobczynski, who rides Speedway, and I borrowed the rear wheel from him to use as a front wheel. So I had two, I think 19-inch wheels, both front and back were 19-inch. We put on some flat track type tires, took off the front brake. So I was riding a 250 SXF at the time.
So basically you just put something together, it worked, and you could ride.
Exactly. We made some custom spacers because obviously the wheels had slightly different hubs and didn't fit the axle, but in one evening we put the bike together so I could race in flat track.
Exactly, and today you rode a few different motorcycles. Do you feel it? Would you want to do more of this? Karol Skurkowani has a knack not just for motocross but well as Maciek said, you really feel these bikes because you ride them all the time. Isn't this like a playground for you, a bit? Because everything is perfectly flat and perfectly predictable.
Yeah, today it would have been really hard for me to get tired. I think I did, I don't know, maybe 100 laps here. My leg was hurting more and more the whole time, all the way up. And it was nice, because you could try riding a bit narrower, a bit wider, see what the grip is like here. Riding narrower, it was a bit brighter and drier, while wider there was a bit more grip. Yeah, and also for overtaking, when I tried to pass someone, I tried to pick up speed here, to cut it short here.
Yes.
Yeah, it was nice.
It's a cool bit of strategy because you're driving and you think, you know, you're faster than someone, but overtaking isn't just that easy. You think you've got them and suddenly it turns out they were better on the exit and boom.
Yeah, it's not easy, especially now. I have real respect for those who race in speedway, because when you're coming out of the corner and someone's pushing you toward the barrier, going 80, 90 kilometers an hour, you really have to think twice about whether to keep your foot on the gas or not.
Yeah.
And just like some people in speedway ride and get right up against the barriers, don't do that. That's really dangerous.
It really is. I can't even imagine it.
Me neither.
Respect to the speedway riders. Huge respect. Maybe we'll try it someday, but for now I'd stick to our 600, you know?
But I'd also really like to try riding on a speedway track, just to see, dedicate a day to it, test it out and see what comes of it.
Yeah. All right, thank you very much. See you.
I would also like to thank you very much for the invitation and for the opportunity to ride at all. It was fucking awesome. All right.
Well, you see, it's wonderful. I like it very much. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that you like it, especially all of you who have these kinds of motorcycles or have thought about them, but for example, didn't want to do motocross or enduro and like flat track instead. Of this material is for you. If you have any technical questions, be sure to ask them. Also, check out the link in the description. There's a really extensive article about flat track there that we've prepared, which contains a lot of information. And I hope that if you like this material, the managers of speedway arenas will like it too. I hope NICE, the company that really stepped up here, will like it too. Thank you very much for that. And listen, we're keeping our fingers crossed that something comes out of flat track, because it took me 3 years to get into flat track. I was afraid of flat track. The first time, I felt like I was riding a motorcycle for the very first time. That's why it's wonderful, amazing, brilliant. And we have a lot of speedway arenas and venues in Poland, and we have a lot of motorcyclists, so let's just do it. Thanks.